This moment matters for all of us. I'm running to be leader of the Liberal Party and our next Prime Minister.
Canada's most insufferable, twitchy globalist, Chrystia Freeland, is gearing up to replace Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as the Liberal Party leader. And let's be honest, she's not a fresh face. She's definitely not a better option. She's certainly not on the side of everyday Canadians. If anything, she's just as radical, as elitist, and equally as dangerous to our freedoms as the man she's trying to replace. Let's take a good, hard look at the real Chrystia Freeland, because you won't hear this from the legacy media lapdogs. To learn more about Freeland and the other top Liberals vying to replace Trudeau and become a short-lived footnote in the history of Prime Ministers of Canada, visit meettheliberals.ca. Now, Freeland is a World Economic Forum trustee, something she's now trying to scrub from the internet. That's right. While she was supposed to be looking out for Canadian interests as our finance minister, she was also sitting on the board of an unelected globalist organization that wants to reimagine capitalism, enforce ESG policies, and control what you eat, drive, and own. These are the people who say you'll own nothing and be happy. Well, guess what? The only ones who benefit from that plan are billionaires and political elites, while the rest of us get squeezed and are told to forget about the dream of home ownership. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, her ties to George Soros raise even more red flags. Before she entered politics, Freeland wrote a biography on Soros, the same man funding radical left-wing movements around the world. Do you really think Freeland is acting in Canada's best interests, or is she just another puppet for the elites trying to push their globalist agenda onto hardworking Canadians? And then, Freeland's got those extreme authoritarian instincts. Let's not forget what happened during the Freedom Convoy protests. Freeland, Trudeau's right-hand woman, gleefully, and as it turns out, illegally, invoked the Emergencies Act, freezing the bank accounts of peaceful protesters and even those who simply donated to the anti-mandate cause. Imagine that, a government minister smugly smiling, cackling as she destroyed the financial livelihoods of everyday Canadians for just daring to disagree with her government's overreach.
So you're confirming that accounts have been frozen, both personal and corporate, but you're not releasing the information. And the actual follow-up is, I'm just wondering whether the bank accounts will be targeted of individuals who donated to the Give, Send, Go and the GoFundMe campaigns. Are they considered designated people under the Emergencies Act, meaning that their credit cards could be cut and financial services are targeting them as well?
Okay, so the names of both individuals and entities, as well as crypto wallets, have been shared by the RCMP with financial institutions, and accounts have been frozen, and more accounts will be frozen.
That wasn't about public safety, of course. It was about crushing dissent and teaching others a lesson. If she was that ruthless as finance minister, what do you think she'll do as prime minister? Then, Freeland's been an economic dumpster fire. As finance minister, Freeland was an unmitigated disaster. Under her watch, inflation spiraled out of control, interest rates skyrocketed, and Canadians were forced to choose between heating their homes and putting food on the table. Instead of taking responsibility, she preached fiscal responsibility while racking up record-breaking debt and imposing even more taxes on working-class Canadians. And her solution? Just cancel Disney+.
I personally, as a mother and wife, look carefully at my credit card bill once a month. And last Sunday, I said to the kids, you're older now, you don't want to watch Disney anymore. Let's cut that Disney Plus subscription. So we cut it. It's only $13.99 a month that we're saving, but every little bit helps. And I think every mother in Canada is doing that right now.
And what happened? Well, Freeland resigned or was fired, depending on whose story you believe, in December of 2024, after butting heads with Trudeau over who would take public responsibility for the Liberals' collective radical financial policies. And Freeland, well, she's got a history of hypocrisy and lies. Freeland loves to preach about environmental responsibility. She scolds us about driving too much, about our carbon footprints and how we need to cut back.
You know, I spoke to you earlier about our price on pollution. That's a very powerful
market-based mechanism. It's going up every single year, and we increased it this year, even in the face of higher inflation. And to me, that shows a meaningful commitment.
Meanwhile, like so many liberals, she doesn't follow her own rules. Remember when she claimed she didn't own a car?
A fact that still shocks my dad is I don't actually own a car.
Only to be caught speeding in Alberta?
So look, I did get a speeding ticket driving between Grand Prairie and Peace River. I was driving too fast, and I won't do it again.
And let's not forget that she's being chauffeured around in taxpayer-funded vehicles while telling the rest of us to take the bus. Then there's her other hypocrisy, her history of downplaying her family's Nazi connections while accusing everybody else of being extremist. Her grandfather, Michael Chomiak, was the editor of a Nazi collaborative newspaper in Ukraine during World War II. Instead of addressing this head on, what her grandpa did was not her fault, she dismissed it as Russian disinformation, even though her family's storied history is chronicled in the Provincial Archives of Alberta. I guess the Russians traveled back in time to frame her. Then in 2022, Freeland was caught proudly holding a scarf bearing Ukrainian nationalist colors associated with Nazi collaborators. And she tried to erase that evidence too. And then there was the standing ovation she gave a geriatric Nazi named Yaroslav Hunka in the House of Commons.
We have here in the chamber today Ukrainian-Canadian world veteran from the Second World War who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98.
Freeland for Prime Minister? Yeah, no thanks. This is the woman who wants to lead Canada, a WEF insider, a Soros disciple, an authoritarian who laughs while freezing the bank accounts of her political opponents, a finance minister who ran the economy into the ground and then bailed, a climate hypocrite who lectures you while living off taxpayer-funded perks, and just a general old run-of-the-mill liar. Canadians can't afford Chrystia Freeland. We never could. She doesn't work for us. She works for the globalists and herself. If she gets the Liberal leadership, she'll take Trudeau's worst policies and she'll double down. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To learn more about Chrystia Freeland and the other top Liberals vying to replace Justin Trudeau as the leader of the Liberal Party and thus become the short-lived Prime Minister of Canada, please go to meetthe-liberals.com. You'll learn more about these people than you will anywhere else. Again, that's meetthe-liberals.com.